Sonic Underground Episode 28, Flying Fortress. We see a dolphin underwater in the dusk, and the narration implies this will be a beach episode where the heroes are relaxing. Sonia says there's no Robotnik to worry about, and Sonic runs in front of her and gets sand on her. Why are they? Well, they are irresponsible teenagers, so I guess it makes sense they wouldn't really take beating Robotnik seriously, and thus they waste their time like this. Though it's good to show the heroes in their downtime to be relatable. Sonic plays frisbee with himself, and Manic digs in the sand and finds $2 for some reason. How would that be there? And they're called Mobiums. Sonic then hits himself in the head with his own frisbee. Then a flying fortress threatens them with lasers. Good thing there were no people on the beach other than them. I mean, it is early in the morning. After Sonic gets stuck in the sand, Robotnik tells the bounty hunters he doesn't need them anymore because he has the Flying Fortress. I wonder if they'll do something about that. The heroes ride away in a van, as I wonder if this plot will have the bounty hunters plotting to make sure that they are needed, which would be cool. Sonia gets mad because a tree was knocked over in the forest. She spent a lot of time with her brothers. You wouldn't expect a typical rich girl to care about the forest. They can't damage the fortress with their lasers, and Sonic runs up and flings himself from a palm tree to creatively get over to the Flying Fortress, falling in through one of the laser cannons, which fortunately doesn't choose to fire while he's trying to do that. He says get a load of this, whirlwinding a robot, and he makes it get fired by the cannon as epic music plays.
Hey, get a load of this! Fire!
Then he wants to find the energy reactor, but there's a lot of hallways to go through. He keeps stupidly stopping when he'd get it done faster if he never stopped. Oh, now he starts running non-stop. Dingo sees him on camera, and Robotnik says he designed the fortress himself, and there's a funny exchange between the bounty hunters after this.
My fortress is perfect. It must be. I designed it myself.
It explains the round shape.
Robotnik says his fortress has an invincible defense system. He hasn't called it the Death Egg yet, so good, that's more original. But when I'm thinking of... See, this is why I liked Sonic's quest and like the Death Egg later, because they explained that the reason the Death Egg is invincible is because of a ring matrix, and rings make you invincible. Sonic runs away from a green light of doom that's just barely keeping up with him. He hits a dead end, and when he does a whirlwind, he goes through the metal wall and falls. I'm sure he'll be fine when he lands, though. Manic hoverboards and catches him. How did he get that hoverboard? It's cool, but still. If this was made later in the series, it could probably be explained that he got it from the same place that people get their airboarding technology in the Riders games. Manic lets him share his board and puts his arm around him like a good brother. They get chased by laser-shooting robots, and Sonia looks badass when she shoots lasers with her sunglasses on. That surprised me, like she really looks badass here. The heroes fall from the hoverboard, but Manic lands on it and he catches Sonic. By this point, I'm more than used to Jalil White as Sonic, by the way. But he's still pretty nasally. Sonia shoots some more lasers with her keyboard, and they run away from the laser cannon into a cave with boulders from the laser seeming to trap them in it. The entire forest was destroyed, and Sonic spin dashes to get out of the cave.
All we got now is a lifetime supply of toothpicks.
He can joke about anything. Sonic is worried that Mobius would soon be trashed. Then, because he saw emerald green energy in the fortress, he realizes that Robotnik could have gotten a Chaos Emerald to power it, and it couldn't be the Master Emerald because if Angel Isle fell, they would have heard about it. So they decide to go visit Knuckles. Wait, Knuckles can call an unknown aircraft with a radio? Okay, then I guess that radio is the remnant of the civilization that used to exist on the island. But it still looks silly that he'd have access to modern technology when he's trapped on an island in isolated existence. And he doesn't have the Chaotix to give him the radio. The laser shoots at the heroes' black plane that looks like it's Robotnik technology, so they probably stole it from him. But it's not explained that the reason he's shooting at them is maybe because he thinks the plane is from Robotnik. After they're shot down, I wonder why they couldn't have just called Knuckles on a cell phone or a radio, since he has a radio anyways. which was what I assumed they would be doing the minute I saw him holding a radio. Knuckles is surprised to see Sonic and shows concern for their well-being. The heroes warn them about the situation. Knuckles says the emeralds are rare, implying that he knows that there is more than just his. I wish his acting was better. He says he's gotta stay on the island and take care of his own people. Yes, people?
I gotta take care of my own people.
I like that he's sounding sad when he says no to them, instead of being a stubborn jerk. They play a song for Knuckles to convince him, and Knuckles' great-grandpa Athair from Archie tells him that he can't leave the floating island to help the heroes, warning him that all of Mobius could be destroyed. I love that an Archie character showed up in the show.
Great Grandpa, there!
I wish it hadn't been spoiled for me. And I guess it's good that 1, he has a good voice, and 2, he has an original design. But what took him so long? Why didn't he talk to him before the song played? Knuckles agrees to help the heroes in the plane anyways, while hoping that he's doing the right thing. After all, there's no one guarding his emerald and he's taking it off, leaving it vulnerable. But most of the time, Robotnik ignores the Master Emerald anyways. You would think that he would go after the Master Emerald at some point. So how often does Athair the Ghost bother Knuckles anyways? Why doesn't he talk to him all the time? Why is Knuckles surprised at seeing him? They're related, so he should be with them more often. Sleep fears being roboticized because he's not needed anymore, so he plans to impressively do a heroic thing for a change and wreck the aircraft. At least I assume. Robotnik is threatened by an aircraft, with Knuckles calling him out, but the pilot of the plane is just a cardboard cutout of Knuckles. When Robotnik blows up the plane that I guess was on autopilot, the heroes parachute down because they've long since jumped out of it. They jump in, and Knuckles pulls out a convenient chaometer that he somehow has. I guess the Guardians made it in case they ever misplaced their emerald, but there's no reason it should have left the altar. Knuckles punches a hole in the metal wall, and they just avoid the green energy. Knuckles says the emerald is just below them, so he digs through the metal. That's great digging ability.
I never knew blowing up SWAT bots could be so much fun.
And nothing will come from this! Nothing! When he has a better voice for a normal person than a villain. Knuckles says that someone's already swiped the emerald, Sleet, and without the emerald, the fortress is going to drop into the sea. Robotnik orders a fast landing, and he calls the bounty hunter's rats for using a flying device to flee from the ship. Why is he mad about that? How can he blame them so easily? I mean, how can he blame them? Fortunately, the fortress doesn't sink and floats in the sea. I guess because it landed really close to the beach, so it landed in shallow water. But it still shouldn't be floating. Dingo looks forward to the day that he'll be in charge because Sleet has the power of an emerald. And impressively, the show says to be continued when the episode ends. Problem is, I highly doubt the show will actually let them be in charge, even of one city. So while I love seeing him in this new position, where they're separate from Eggman for a change, chances are it's not gonna last and Robotnik won't fire them or roboticize them for their betrayal. It's like the OSTH Emerald arc. Because for once, the show that plays it safe will have an epic story arc with continuity in it. And then it'll never do that again when it should have been writing like that all along. So yeah, I'm really pleasantly surprised that this episode is the start of a story arc. The plot is that Robotnik starts threatening the heroes with a laser-shooting flying fortress, and Sleet realizes he isn't considered necessary anymore and steals the emerald powering it. It would be nice if we would learn where it was found, but whatever. Apparently Robotnik just has it for no reason. It was cool that he sabotaged his fortress and enjoyed blowing up SWAT bots. Even if nothing will come of it, because that'd be brilliant writing. So the heroes were never needed at all, at least so far. They didn't know that Sleet would do the work for them, of course. I really don't see why Knuckles would have a Chaos Energy detector. I could understand Knuckles himself being that, with his adventure radar and all. But for him to just suddenly have a Chaos detector out of nowhere is stupid. Did he have that before? Why would the ancient echidnas have bothered to make that? That's a nitpick though, because the plot would have gone the same if it was Knuckles himself who was the magic detector. I think that if Knuckles had access to a radio to tell airplanes to not approach his island, the hero should have been able to radio him back in their plane and tell him it's cool. But that's just a nitpick. The plot would have gone the same way either way. It just happened to pad things out. Athair from Archie shows up as a ghost to tell Knuckles that Mobius will be destroyed if he leaves the island. Obviously that won't happen because that would require guts, and where else would they live? So I hope he's just making a false assumption here. And how could a wise old man like him be wrong? But do they know how to portray him? Is he always right or is he always wrong? Maybe he means if Knuckles spends too long off the island. I'm really impressed that Penders let them have his character in a TV show. I wish that would happen a lot more often. But no, of course not. And some so-called fans wouldn't appreciate it anyways. It makes sense that he's a ghost here, because otherwise, even if Knuckles' great-grandpa is still alive, I'd have to question why his other relatives aren't too. Because he doesn't look quite old enough, and looks nothing like he's supposed to, he looks more like he'd be Knuckles' father at first glance. If I already knew it was him ahead of time. And I hope this isn't his only appearance, because he doesn't show any personality so far, so what's the point of including him? It was all... his scene was just filler. I liked that Knuckles was being sympathetic when he was hesitating to help the heroes, instead of acting like a stubborn jerk like in the other continuities. Like, compare him to Fleetway Knuckles, and he's a lot nicer. Instead, he's sad and worried about his island. But when he said he's protecting his people, I immediately hoped that this would mean we'd see other echidnas around, and make this continuity more unique from all the rest, and thus have even more value to it. I don't see the big deal about echidnas. I mean, as long as they're still rare. Tikal and Shade are other echidnas. No one bitches about them. They could have echidnas be exclusive to Angel Island in one small city. Maybe they live in another dimension, but come to visit the island as a resort or something. I doubt the show would have the guts to do that, though. It was probably just a dumb line of his that meant nothing.